Good morning. I'd like to, for this week, investigate the phrase the shadow of the Almighty. Many people in trouble seek God's shelter. Even Christians, when things go badly, run to Him. But the shadow of the Almighty is not a place only for refuge in times of trouble. It's supposed to be where we are. We know perhaps a lot about it, we hear about it, but do we live in it? As we go through the study this morning, perhaps there's more to it than you might have imagined. Perhaps we could start in a very hot place. We've all known what it means to seek the shelter of a tree or a rock, to find some shadow, some place out of the sun. But if we go a little bit further, right to Revelations, and we read in Revelations chapter 6, verse 16, and they cried to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. You might realize that we're not just seeking shadow and shade for our physical bodies, but where does your soul rest? At the end of time, when God calls all to account, our bodies will be one aspect, but it will be our soul that tries to hide. It will seek out place, and for those who are not found in Him, there is no place, there is nowhere to hide. Go back now from Revelation to the day that Jesus Christ was crucified. In the temple, the veil which stopped people going into the Holy of Holies was torn in two. It signified that the wall between God and man had been torn down. The relationship that was broken in the Garden of Eden had been restored. We had access to the very presence of God. It meant a lot. Firstly, the mercy seat. We find mercy in the presence of God instead of His wrath. That was made possible by the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. The justice for the sin we had committed could not be just overlooked. It was paid for in full. When Jesus Christ died, all the wrath of God was satisfied. It was poured out on Him, and so we can freely walk into His presence. Before the veil was torn, a person could not walk in front of God and endure His power. His love and power, which are really the same thing, were too strong for us to bear. And so we get to Psalm 91, verse 1. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. There's a place for our souls to find rest. And yet we don't find ourselves often in the shadow of the Almighty. Sometimes, when trouble comes, we run to find shelter in Him. This was not only supposed to be a place of rescue. This was supposed to be the place where we reside. It would be a strange thing that God, who had made a way open for us to walk into His presence, would find us standing at a distance, knowing that it was open, studying it, talking about it, wrestling with it, but never walking in. He's given us a fountain from which we can drink. To watch it and analyze it, and to speak of it, but never to drink of it, means that we never experience the presence and the rest and the quenching of our thirst that God promises. And so, although we can be found now in the shadow of the Almighty, many of us stay at a distance, and so we never experience the rest that God has promised. I think the one thing that we don't often realize, because we fill our lives and our minds with worry about our physical needs, that our soul needs shelter too. It's not just the fact that you are tired from all the fighting that goes on in the world. There are fights that are going on with your soul, and your soul needs shelter. There are at least 5 of these, and some of these come from the commentaries that I've studied. First of all is the persecution and opposition of other people. When you call yourself Christian, it is not well received by the general population. You remind them of all that they perhaps don't like about themselves and the wrestling that they're going through, and they certainly don't like to be reminded of their sin. Second one is, and something we often ignore, is that you are constantly under the attack of Satan. He's actively seeking your destruction. If you feel battered in your soul, don't forget that there is one who wages war against you. The third one is that we use a lot of our energy fighting to break free from habitual sin. And so for the person who is not a Christian, who doesn't understand the need and demand of God for righteousness, there is no barrier to enjoying sin. But for the Christian, we can never rest in our sinfulness. The fourth one is the debilitating power of our doubts. Our doubts hold us back. They take away our energy and our confidence, and they exercise power over us that they should not. Your soul is battered by doubts. The fifth one, I've kept the old language here because I think it says so much. We don't always win the fight against sin. And so our soul feels the cost of surrendering to our evil indulgences. And when we fall, we are battered by guilt, we're battered by the knowledge that we've let God down and ourselves, we've not lived up to the standard that He's put in front of us. And so your soul needs shelter. It needs a place where all of these things can be taken. We can be confident and fearless in the shadow of the Almighty. We only understand what God has done and is and where we are. These are words for the Christian soul. Consider then, O my soul, how safe you are, how fearless you should be. I think if we realized our position in Christ, if you're living in the shadow of the Almighty, that you are safe. You should have all the confidence of God Himself. You should not be overcome by fear. You should look forward to the adventure of living God's life in you. You can know peace in the shadow of the Almighty. He says in Isaiah 26 verse 3, "You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed in you." This is not just a state of being. This is an active thing where we take our thoughts and fix them on Him. It takes an action. Just like drinking from the fountain means drinking. Thinking like God's means thinking. Fixing your thoughts on Him. Trusting in Him. It means an action. And your peace is found when you place by action your faith and trust in Him. I'd like to finish off this morning with a passage of text which can be read as a prayer. The commentator said this: Whatever refuges others may seek, I choose this. I look unto you to help me. I hide in your mercy, for it is offered to all sinners, and such am I. I hide in your justice, for Jesus has satisfied its claims. I hide in your power, for this is but the instrument of your love, and love is but another name for yourself. Other lords beside you have had dominion over me, but now I desire to be yours, yours only, yours forever. With the disciple of old, though like him long doubting, I would say, my Lord and my God. Henceforth let me live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. And a voice from heaven replies, be it unto you even as you will. Amen.